thanks for taking the time to do it. It is a pleasure, of course, to speak to you. How are you today?
Likewise, I'm good, man. I'm good. A bit tired. Got busy daily life, but I mean, rather be busy than bored. Let's put it that way.
Well, what is keeping you busy at the moment from a, let's say, band perspective?
Yeah, from a band perspective. Well, we've got the Stormcast release coming up, so a lot of content planning, basically. And apart from that, just making sure that everything's ready with regards to like publishing and everything, like with getting it on all the platforms that it's supposed to be on the right date. Trying to get some press to be interested in us
Mm.
and do things like we're doing now. Some reviews would be, yeah, reviews as well. But also planning for like the future because at the moment we're in different countries with the other members.
Yeah.
So to do like an album release show, for example, we need to plan where and when, looking at flights, and yeah, it's quite a lot involved. It's not very simple.
No, no. The long and winding road to a release is filled with many stops and pitfalls, and you name it.
For
It
sure.
can be a lot of stress, but it can also be a lot of fun. The build to the release of Tremors in the Ether.
Mm.
Overall, have you been enjoying it? The build.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey of um, a better part of 5 years. I'd say maybe 4.5 years.
Hmm.
It's been really interesting because it started. Sorry about the noise, by the way. It started late 2019. It's basically when we finished our presentation of our previous album, Ghost Eater, when we finished like Bloodstock, and then we did some shows in the south of England. We just said, we need to write something new. We kind of like we played the previous tracks quite a lot, so let's do something new now. I'm like, okay. So we started writing music and planning for like, further shows into 2020, and then obviously COVID hit. And as with almost every other band on the planet, it just basically grinded everything to a halt. But not just like plan wise, it kind of really like put us in a bad position psychologically as well. Like
Mm.
I mean, you know it just as well. I am very sure. It was really hard to get inspired, plan for anything. It was a hard time, and it just took its toll on everything. So I mean, it the songwriting after that took a few months to start going again, and
Yeah.
I could say it did like bring out creativity in the end because I mean, music is uh is a product of emotions, basically. Let's put it that way. So I think the frustration is really reflected in this new piece of work that we've made.
Well, we got to go back a little bit first to begin with, because you mentioned that the year was 2019. It feels so long ago. Bloodstock, of course, you played the New Blood stage. It's where we first met.
Yeah.
And it's over 5 years later. I want you to kind of just look back at that performance, particularly when you kind of contrast Stormcast then to Stormcast now. What do you
Mhm.
take away from that period?
What do I take away? What exactly do you mean? What we take
In
away?
regards to how you got to this stage, do you think when you look back at that performance that it was at the time it was incredibly important? It was the biggest thing you've probably done at that stage. When you look back at it now, considering what's happened over the past 5 years, does it still hold that much weight?
For sure, I think for any band that plays New Blood stage, it gives a very important meaning
Mm.
to what your brand is as a band. In the UK at least, because you just get noticed in areas that you wouldn't normally get noticed. You know, we're down in the we were down in the south of
Yep.
England, and you know, no one in the north or the Midlands knew us at that stage. I mean, they barely knew us in the south, to be honest. But you know, playing up there, and we were quite fortunate because when we started playing during our set, it was raining, and so everyone
Mm.
came in the tent, which was really fortunate for us. So I think for any band, you know, playing Bloodstock back then or at any year really, it's really important in their whole journey of, you know, growing as a band. Not necessarily for more people to like learn about the band, but also as a band to get that experience of playing in such an important place, let's say.
Mm. Yeah, I'm glad you still feel that way because, of course, as the years goes by and it's kind of recedes from memory, it's important to may not feel it may not be feel as important as it once did, particularly when you consider what came afterwards. You know, you talked the pandemic and how many years that effectively took from you from a band perspective. And I guess is it fair to point out the pandemic as the overall reason why it basically took 6 years between the release of Ghost Eater and the upcoming album?
Pandemic for sure played a huge part. But we're generally quite a slow band as well. I mean, it definitely did play its part, but we're not the kind of band that has a new release every 1 or 2 years. I mean, our first one was in 2014. No,
Yeah.
sorry. Our first one was in 2009, which
Hmm.
was our first small EP. And then we did another one in 2014. And then we had another
Hmm.
4 years later was Ghost Eater. And now it's, you know, 6 years almost.
Yeah.
But we're no by no means a quick turnaround kind of band. We take our time with things, and we like to do like that because you know I need to what I what we're going to put out. I need to personally I need to feel that it's genuine, you know, and it's not rushed. It doesn't have some sort of agenda, let's say, or
Okay.
you know, it needs to be organic, you know, and it needs to
Mhm.
be real. So I don't mind if even if our next album after Tremors in the Ether takes 10 years, I don't mind. You know, just
You're happy.
as long as it's genuine.
You're happy not to put any arbitrary timelines, pressure on yourselves to do something in a certain way in a certain time.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, with that in mind, then, what is the overall mindset like in Stormcast right now? We are making our way slowly but surely towards the all-important release of Tremors in the Ether. So, the overall mindset, do you think you're all in a very good place?
Yeah, yeah, we're all really excited. I mean, at the moment, I'm permanently living in Cyprus, and the
Hmm.
others are up in still in Brighton. So, you know, we are in contact on a weekly basis. We're all like really doing our best to, you know, get everything prepared,
Yeah.
make plans for the future. We love the songs. We absolutely love the songs, and I think that's really important, you know, with artists who are about to release music because it is very common that you know some artists they might write music and they're just never happy with it.
Hmm.
But and I felt like that in the past about a lot of the music, but this time around I'm genuinely I love the songs. I've listened to them so many times and haven't got bored of them. You know, and I just can't wait to play them live one day as well.
Yeah. Okay. Even at this stage, you're still loving what you produced here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the album we've been playing it, you know, practicing, listening
Hmm.
to it for the better part in its in their final form. The songs, I mean, for about a year and a half now.
Hmm.
Still not bored of them. You know,
That
they're
is
great fun.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I
Well, there
can't wait
has
to
been
show
a
everyone.
well, I mean, there has been a great response to the single and Astra so far.
Yeah.
Really positive vibes around that. Does that kind of give you a little bit of confidence as to how maybe the full thing might be received?
Yeah, yeah. There has been we've got some really good feedback from people online as well, but also in person. I've had
Mhm.
people come up and say, you know, I really like the new face, let's say. I mean, it's not like it's totally different to our previous stuff, but it's what the comments I've heard of that it feels more complete and more mature as
Mm.
songwriting. And I'm really glad that people are perceiving it like that because I feel like that as well, that it's more well-rounded and how can I say, constructed properly, let's say, for lack of a better word.
I think I
Yeah, I
understand what you
mean,
mean, though.
sorry.
I think I understand what you mean. What you mean when
Mhm.
you use terms like that. This track is a good. Is to me, it's a good showcase of what you've clearly learnt over the past 5 to 6 years, over this particular period of time between albums. You have grown up. Your lives have evolved. The band has
Sure.
evolved. All this stuff is kind of clearly in it, and that's why it sounds more well-rounded, as you put it.
For sure. Yeah, we all have grown since then. I mean, both in age and in wisdom, I'd like to believe.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's reflected in the music as well. Yeah, I mean, listening back to previous stuff that we've done, the previous release, or even the one from like 10 years ago, uh, very, we're in a very different place to where we were back then. Our music is different as well, but I mean, I look back at the at those times, and I think those were pivotal points to reach where we are today with music. So always grateful for everything that we've done in the past.
It's all about build in life, and ultimately, what those things that you did earlier on, whether you love them now or don't, they become it's who makes you who you are now, as you
For sure.
said. We got to talk a little bit about the early days of Tremors in the Ether, in particular, a vision.
Mhm.
Did you have a vision, a clear vision, in the earliest point of the creation of the album?
No,
There it is.
I didn't have a vision. I never really like plan out an album in my head before I start writing. It all just comes with time, and I think that's why it also takes so long as well. Um, um, because when I start writing, new ideas, uh, I'll be just playing new ideas or just trying out new things, and then if it feels like maybe I can make a song out of this, then the song will be formed eventually. And a lot of the times I'm thinking, bloody hell, this riff, or this idea sounds so different to this other one, and they don't fit together. I'm just gonna, they belong in two different songs, and then I'm thinking, oh, those songs are going to sound so different to each other. How can they go in an album? And then I'm thinking, well, maybe that's probably a good thing because then you don't sound the same on every song. And it's worked out till this day, to be honest. So because like on the previous record, we wrote like that as well. We just wrote from instinct, and if things just didn't sound, there was no cohesion, let's say, we didn't let it hold us back. We just thought, okay, let's write it, see what it sounds, and it's even if we get criticism that it just sounds too different, then it's someone's personal opinion.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
worked out so far.
yeah,
You know,
clearly. But I mean, so it's not necessarily that you set out to write an album. So, for example, you didn't necessarily sit down one day and go, right, Tremors in the Ether, whatever it was called originally, whatever your thoughts were, this has now got to be made. So I now need to focus on creating X amount of tracks. It's more just, okay, I'm making tracks, you're creating tracks, and then it just sort of comes together.
yeah, exactly. Just making tracks as we go along. And I mean, the album name was probably the last thing that came along. To be honest, it's just like, okay, what we're going to call it now, and
Mm.
it just the phrase just popped into my head. Of like, it fits, it feels right. We're going to go with that.
But at what stage do you, oh, well, can you remember what stage during this particular period, this album's period, where you started to see an album coming together? You thought, okay, I've got X amount of tracks complete and I need this much more.
Probably halfway. Probably
Hmm.
halfway, I knew that we were getting towards like, okay, this is probably going to be an album from the looks of it.
Yep.
Um, but I think it was probably like maybe 4 or 5 songs in, and was thinking, okay, these could go on an album together. But I still got some more ideas I want to explore. Let's see what happens with those in the next few months. And as we were going, okay, this is starting to sound like a song. I've also got this idea. Let's see what we could do with that. Oh, okay, that ended up being shit. Let's not use it. Um, And I think like, once we reached about seven, eight, well, actually it's nine tracks now, with if you include the intro track. I thought, okay, this seems like a reasonable duration for an album. I mean, I think it's around 45 minutes if I'm not mistaken. And that's when you just say the decision, okay, I've got to stop writing now, got to stop coming up with new ideas. Let's see how it sounds like as a unit, as one thing.
Mm.
And that's where we decided, okay, it's an album now.
Did a lot sort of end up on the cutting room floor though? Because cutting yourself off from creating new ideas, I'd imagine, is quite a difficult thing.
So what do you mean by that?
So you obviously know you have to cut yourself off and stop creating new ideas for this particular
Hmm.
album. That
Yeah,
stopping point is really, really difficult.
yeah.
Well, that's the question. Was it difficult for you just to stop, cut, and did it when you then were putting the album together, did a lot sort of end up on the floor, kind of thrown away?
No, I never throw ideas away completely because like I've been playing riffs that I wrote since I was 16, okay, and I'm 33 now. And I know that maybe they're cool riffs, but they just never turned out to become anything more than that.
Yeah.
But one day that they might just magically reappear and find themselves in a song from another era, basically. And I didn't find it hard to stop being to stop writing for this
Mm.
album because I also did reach a point with the songwriting that okay, I think we can stop now. Well, actually, it's not like I ever stopped writing. I've still got ideas going and stuff that I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is turning into a song that we can look at later. But I felt it was
Yeah.
like the right time to, just close it off and be like, okay, let's focus on what we have now,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, because the idea that you like when we use the term stop writing, the image it conjures up, of a dead stop, and okay, for the next 6 months, not a single thing is going to be penned or put down
Yeah.
or done. It's absurd. Of course, you're going to continue to write. That is, you're creative. It would be weird if you weren't creating.
Exactly. And I think the writing never stops, to be honest. I mean,
Mm.
when you're a creative person, your creativity is happens. I mean, not on a daily basis. I'd be lying if I said that I'm creative on a daily basis, but
Of course.
writing first starts here and here. That's when it first starts. It doesn't start when you pick up your musical instrument. And I found that a lot of the times that before when I was coming up with ideas in the past, I'd be singing stuff to myself, or I'd be humming stuff to myself, or just tapping or whatever, and that's where the writing actually begins.
Mm.
Instinctively, basically.
Well, sticking with the writing for this new album, what
Mhm.
about aspects of your personal life, just life in general around you? How much did that interfere with some of the writing? Did it have an effect? And if it did it force changes?
Um, yeah, I think your surroundings and the environment that you're immersed in will always have an impact on your creative output. As I said, a lot of the writing did happen during COVID and during lockdowns. There was times where I was locked in the same house for a month. I mean, actually, I did a lot of writing when I was. I spent most of my lockdowns in Cyprus, by the way,
Okay, yeah.
and the lockdowns we had here were very different to the lockdowns that we had in the UK. So lockdowns in Cyprus, especially the first one, you were not allowed to leave your house at all
Mm.
unless you sent a text to the government and got a confirmation to leave the house. And it had to be for basic necessities like I have no food, I need to go and buy food. It was like that. And I think you only got two goes a day, so like 2 hours. It was kind of like it felt a bit like prison, like
Yeah.
kind of like a luxury prison. So we spent, I think it was 1 or 2 months that it was like that. I can't remember. It's like it never happened now. Um, but during that time where that was the situation, I felt myself just fall into this really like depressive state, and my only escape was being creative, and I had to do that, otherwise I'd just go insane. Um, so that is the environment that sort of hosted my whole creative experience during that time. And like there's songs on the track like Oceans, for example, which for me is like it's the best song I've ever written. And
Okay.
I'm not being cocky about this. Literally, I love that song, and I will listen to that. I will listen to that song for the rest of my life and be so proud of it. And I just remember so clearly where I was and just the days where those ideas came up.
Really?
And I just look back and I'm like, fuck, that was a difficult period, but it just produced something so beautiful that I'm so proud of.
That is fascinating because effectively what you have here at least is a collection of songs that puts you back in a specific time and place. That's a cool thing, but it can also kind of like have a negative side to it. Are you able to take the positives from it and see this album and what you wrote there as, yes, that was a strange period in my life, but it still happened nonetheless?
No, absolutely. It doesn't trigger me in any point
Oh,
if that's what you mean.
good
If
choice
if
of words, yeah.
anything if anything it just makes me grateful for
Mm,
everything, because yeah, it was a terrible time. No, I would not like to live it again for sure. But it happened, and that's the truth, and that's reality, and it's something, that everyone who went through those times had to accept and then move on. And I think a lot of people did come out stronger. Not
fair enough.
saying that everyone came out strong. Obviously, some people didn't. But for me, I'm grateful that I did. You know,
Um, any positives we can take out of such a universally negative period is always worth hearing about. What
for
about
sure.
creative boundaries for the writing of this album? Now, naturally, as an artist, it's easy to say, well, of course, you didn't set yourself any boundaries creatively, but ultimately, when you're writing and you're creating music, you know you've got to want to, or you've got to sound like Stormcast, or what you think Stormcast sounds like. So,
For
did you
sure.
have any lines in the sand, as it were, for the writing of this record?
Um, I think like without thinking about it, yeah. Because there's how can I explain this? I generally what I write doesn't ever feel like it's not Stormcast, you know. Because so like
Of
for
course.
example, we're not a thrash band, for example, but there might be thrash elements in the track, and I think just the way that, because I do most of the writing for the band.
Mhm.
I think that when I do start playing something, when something creative is coming out, um, it will always like have that signature sound that it always sounds like something I've written, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't, start writing a jazzy blues riff and be like, oh, okay, because I wrote it, it fits for the band.
Of
But
course.
I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like yes and no, there is boundaries. But
Mm.
when something just sounds completely out of character, I'll be able to identify it and just like not bother with it anymore.
But it's also fair to say, if you wanted to write a jazzy blues number, for example, in the future, it's not necessarily off the table. It won't just necessarily fit within the Stormcast world.
No, of course it wouldn't, and I wouldn't force it to fit in that world. I'd start a new project. I'd work with
Yeah.
someone else on it. I wouldn't force it into um that that sphere, let's say, of the band just because it's something I wrote. No, I wouldn't do that.
Of course, of course. The entire process, of course, as long as the period's been and the ups and downs of it, can be incredibly challenging, but also incredibly exciting. So sticking with the challenging side of things first. When you do look at the entire process creation of this album, and I'm talking from the very first note that's penned to getting the masters back to where we are right today. What were some of the more challenging moments overall for you?
Well, the mixing was a challenge, but I don't think
Hmm.
there's ever a time where a band's mixing isn't a challenge because it involves listening to your track a lot, and you don't, especially in the beginning, you don't always um, hear it as you imagined it to be,
Hmm.
and that can be off-putting as well because you're given because we don't mix our own tracks,
Yeah.
and when someone else is doing it for you, it can get a bit frustrating at the beginning because its fate is in someone's hands, and you really need to communicate what you want from him to make it sound like how you imagine it.
Yes.
And but it does take a level of patience and and calmness to be like, okay, this is what the process is like, and we just need to be patient and communicative, and we'll get there in the end, no matter how long it takes.
Hmm.
Other challenges, um, I mean, no. That was basically the only challenge, really. I mean, the rest of it, yeah, recording an album does take a lot of work, but I never saw it as a challenge. It was always
Yep.
just, back to work, back to, what we love, you know.
That's fabulous to hear. I mean, it's a bit of a tricky question that because ultimately there are, as you said, there are always going to be challenges around all aspects of creating an album. But whether or not you see them or saw them as a challenge is a totally different thing. So I'm always quite pleased when the response is no, not really. It all went smoothly to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do say that the mixing was a challenging time. At the same time, though, we did have a really good mixing engineer,
Yeah.
and he was stellar with the whole process. He was really patient with us. He was very open to criticism, very open to us, having the control over how the album was sounding. But at the same time, because he's such an experienced producer, he did offer his wisdom and saying, I really do think this would sound better like this, and this is why, basically. And you do want that from someone who has experience um, in that line of work.
Okay, same question, but this time from a more positive angle, the specifics about favorite moments. So again, the entire creation process of the album. But when you look back at it, what are some of your favorite memories?
Favorite memories. I love doing the vocal recordings. That was pretty fun. Because I recorded the vocals at a studio here in Cyprus at a friend's studio, and recording vocals is always a fun time. I generally really enjoy the whole process. You go there, you get into a relaxed mode because you need to be relaxed when you're doing vocals, and also the engineer needs to be a sound guy, not just a
Hmm.
sound guy.
Yeah.
Because he needs to you need to feel good when you're doing the vocals because that's when you get your best result. um Other times, just generally the recording of the guitars was a lot of fun as well. We did them at our own home studios in Brighton, and it was always a fun process. We'd all meet up, we'd have a couple of drinks, we record everything, we'd have a laugh. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was good times. you know
That's nice. That's great to hear. Okay. From a listener perspective, then, what do you hope, or what would you like a listener to take away from this album when they hear it?
what would I like for the listener? I've actually never thought about that. I don't. It's a strange question because I don't really have expectations from how people perceive the album. Obviously, it would be nice if people liked it for sure,
Hmm.
because every artist wants people to like their art, and if they say otherwise, they're lying.
Mhm.
um, but I guess what I would like people to take away from it is I want them to feel that what they're listening to comes from a place of honesty,
Okay.
basically, because it does. And Yeah. Like I guess that's it, basically.
Okay, that's cool. It's an
Mm,
interesting one because obviously how people perceive music, all art, is so subjective.
mm.
It's really it's a purposely designed question to be difficult, it's to make you think.
Thank you.
But also on that front, what about a track from the album, right? So we've had Ad Astra, obviously, um, and no doubt. Well, I don't know your specific plans. I'm sure you're probably due to release at least another one before release date. Am I right?
Yeah, there'll be at least one more single release before the 29th of November when the full album
Yeah.
comes out.
All right. Is there a particular track from the album that you're more interested in any other for listeners to hear? And if so, why?
That would be Oceans for sure.
Oh,
As I previously mentioned, it's a piece I'm incredibly proud of. It also, I think it's the most diverse sounding piece on the track. There's a lot of clean vocals in it, and ways of singing that I've never challenged myself to do, and I've done so this time. And I learned a lot from it, and I learned a lot about myself from recording that track as well. Also, just the just the way the track flows, it feels like a journey, and it was a journey writing that song. So yeah, that's the one I'm most excited about. Although it's not the one that is going to be the next single before the album. The next single is "Gods from a Stranger Land."
okay, okay, okay. That's cool. I look forward to see people's response to that.
Mhm.
Talking of which, then, success. It can be measured in many different ways, particularly from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective. So, I wanted to ask you, what would success for this album potentially look like for you?
Success for this album would be to play it in full in front of well, not in front of a number of people, but to play it in full in Cyprus and to play it in full in the UK as well in front of people. Um, just getting it live would be the biggest thing of success. Like if we do that, I am very pleased. In terms of like numbers, let's say, I it's hard to get views and listens this day and age. So
Mhm.
I don't really have like I can't say I want 5,000 listens or whatever. I that's just it's what the algorithm wants.
Yes, yes,
At
slaves.
the
We're
end
all
of the
slaves to
day,
it.
yeah. But I mean, success would be just if I get a general feeling from people that I know that they enjoyed it, and I can tell if they do enjoy it generally or if they're being nice, Which at the end of the day, it's up to them. I've already succeeded in many ways, even if before it's released, because I'm happy with it.
It is incredible. As of the time recording, a few hours before we're having this chat, I was speaking with Swallow the Sun,
Oh
interviewing
wow, okay.
there. Yeah, and basically a very similar answer in regards to the success being that you are happy with it, and that you've got to this point. Anything else is just gravy, basically. And I love the fact that you both kind of matched up on that.
Exactly. No, as you said, everything else is just extra. If you're happy with the album, that's success. You're starting off with success,
And throughout
basically.
this talk, I've got the impression that you are very, very happy with what you've done here. That you're very proud of what you've done here, and it's simply about what, fingers crossed, what it might allow you to do going forward. In particular, as you said, getting out and hopefully playing live. Because hopefully, when we look ahead, all right, it's the middle of October, coming up to middle of October. 2024 is almost done, but we do have 2025, and we've got to kind of look a little ahead. I'm not going to ask you to spell out all your potential plans. I guess I want to sort of ask you what you would like, or what's an achievement you could potentially aim to reach next year?
Sure. So we're already planning with the guys for our album release show.
Yep.
We agreed that we want to do it here in Cyprus because
Yep.
it's a scene where it's the home of where we began as a band
Hmm.
back in 2007, and we haven't played here in 10 years. and we do feel that, and people do know us here. People have been following us, uh, since I moved to the UK in 2012 and continued the band there.
Hmm.
So people are asking for it here, and the album release show, we want it to happen here, and we're looking at sometime in February, most probably.
Awesome.
And beyond that, the next one would be a show in Brighton, because Brighton is our second home.
Of course. It's got an incredible
Yeah,
scene over there as well.
for sure. Yeah, some great bands over there. Great scene overall. It's fantastic. I miss it so much.
But you are in Cyprus, so you can't miss it that much more, that much.
Nah.
Right, couple more minutes of your time. In this is Ozzy Osbourne, and in his head are random cards of everything and anything that we've come up with, including many submissions from bands and artists over the years as well, who have offered their own questions. What I do now is I just pull out some at random and you answer them, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Sure.
Okay, cool. We start with number 26. Have you ever broken a bone?
Broken a bone? No, I haven't.
Oh, lucky. Good. Awesome. Nice and easy. You're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, if you remember that game show. Who is your phone a
Yep.
friend?
I'm going to be boring, and I'm going to say my wife.
Yeah?
For sure, she's so knowledgeable on a lot of things that I am not, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I was about to ask, is it knowledgeable in the sort of general knowledge way or specific subjects? Because, of course, the general knowledge thing is so important.
Specific things like, I'm terrible at like popular culture or like
Ah,
fashion or, all these kind of things. And she's very good, so it would only make sense.
no worries. Okay, if you could go back and give your teenage self one piece of advice, what might that be?
Don't think too much and be, well, I mean, let's put it all into one. Don't overthink too much, be more daring, believe in yourself more.
Do you think your teenage self would have listened to you?
Um, if it was me, yeah. If they knew it was me, yeah. Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All
Yeah.
right. What is an overrated tourist attraction? This could be from anywhere in the world.
Overrated tourist attraction. Eiffel Tower. I mean, I've been there. It's nothing special. It's I mean, yeah, it's a huge structure, and there's like, it's there, but I think people just go over the top with how romantic and stuff it is. It's not.
Yeah, I second that. I've been up it as well, and yeah, it's something.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is a topic that you are quite argumentative about?
Football.
Yeah, okay, all right,
Yeah,
football, all right.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, I have to follow that up with, well, who is there a team you support?
Brian and Hove Albion, absolutely, for sure. And okay, I wouldn't say argumentative, but I'll engage in discourse, whenever you want.
Okay, okay, of course. All right, what would your dream job be aside from being a musician?
Dream job. I'd probably say something to do with animals. So like probably I wouldn't be a vet,
Hmm.
although I have great respect for vets because they have a really difficult job. Probably some kind of animal sanctuary.
So yeah, like I get what you mean. Like, you're taking care of animals, but without the sort of medical side of things.
Yeah, because I work with with vets on a daily basis, and I can see how difficult their job is, and I have huge respect for them. And as much as I love animals, I couldn't do what they do. Sure.
Fair, fair, fair. Okay, three more. What is the most decadent thing you've ever eaten?
Uh, I couldn't think. Snails. Yeah,
Oh, oh,
yeah. They're
okay.
they're quite they're quite a delicacy in Cyprus. I actually really like them.
Oh, you do like them then, yeah?
Yeah. No, I thought I'd hate them and that they'd be like snots, but they're not. They're actually really good.
I've heard that. I mean, while I've never had it, I've always heard that yes, they are quite tasty.
Yeah. No, they're good. If you know how to make them, they're good.
Okay, TikTok, yay or nay? Where do you sit on this one?
Sorry, I lost you there. Could you say that again?
Oh, yeah, no worries. TikTok, yay or nay? Where do you sit on this one?
Oh, I would love to say nay, but yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like I think I'm a little bit addicted to it.
Oh, you a doom scroller, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to say nay and get off it, but I mean, it's good, isn't it?
How about from a band perspective, talking about Stormcast and you utilizing TikTok? Where do you sit on that one?
I would, you know what? I would love to have the knowledge of a Gen Z TikToker because I could probably like get a lot more recognition from my band. But now I am 33 and I have, no patience to learn how to use TikTok in the manner that it's meant to be used.
That's a really good way to put it. I think that's a problem for a lot of people. It's not necessarily not enjoying it or like understanding the process, but having the time and the patience to create what needs to be created to make it worthwhile is a different thing altogether.
Exactly, and I think with TikTok as well, you also need to like expose yourself quite a lot. Like it's a very face in the camera kind of thing sometimes, and
Yeah.
I'm not particularly very comfortable doing that all the time.
No, fair enough. At least you
And
get some enjoyment out of it.
yeah,
All right, lastly, what is something that never fails to make you smile?
cats for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
cats, and more particularly my own cat. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know. They're just these crazy, cute little beings that even if they're in a pissy mood, they're just still funny and they're cute and it's just like, you know.
You say you got
You know
one,
what I
yeah?
mean.
Yeah, I've got two.
Sorry.
I've got two. They're currently asleep on over that way, so they're brothers.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, they're the best.
They are indeed. And what is also the best, of course, is this enjoyable build towards the release of Tremors in the Ether, which, as of time recording, is a little bit away, but we will get there. November 29th, 2024 is its release date. But of course, before then, we will have an additional single. But Ad Astra is out now, and you can hear that and enjoy that and get a taster of what we can expect from this upcoming album. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it. And congratulations on your channel, by the way. It's great stuff. Always interesting to check it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.